This is what Trump does. He will just spurt out all sorts of populist economic policy proposals and then do nothing. He wants the kudos without actually doing the work. And then they'll play the good cop, bad cop. Trump wants to do it, but oh no, I can't do it because of the Republicans who are.
Welcome back, folks, and buckle up. We're diving headfirst into the political circus surrounding credit card interest rates, and believe you me, it's a wild ride. We've got populist promises, corporate fear-mongering, and politicians who clearly think we were born yesterday. Get ready to have your intelligence insulted, because we're about to expose some serious BS from the very people who claim to represent us. Let's get into it.
Funded by the financial services industry.
You're trying to have it both ways. On the one hand, he does something, you say it's wrong. He doesn't do anything, you say it's wrong. You're creating an environment in which he can't do anything
that's
not going to upset you.
Talk
I think that's the plan.
Is cheap.
Exactly.
I'm sick of politicians who do nothing for us, expecting credit from the American people for simply proposing something without real intention in getting it done.
I think she's the wrong one to pick this fight with because
I'm not picking a fight with Anna. I'm simply saying.
I absolutely would give Trump credit if he followed through on some of the policies he claims to want to accomplish. And one of those policies happens to be capping credit card interest rates to 10%. By the way, for 1 year, that was his proposal. Just for 1 year, which isn't, it's not a solution to the very real problem we have with the loan sharks that have run amok in this country.
Seriously? A 1-year gap? That's like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound and calling it a full recovery. It's a performative gesture, a political stunt designed to grab headlines and appease a frustrated public without actually committing to the systematic change which we desperately need. It's the equivalent of saying, we'll stop the loan sharks from eating your lunch for 1 year, but after that, you're on your own, buddy. This isn't a solution. It's a temporary distraction. The problem isn't a 1-year blip. It's a deeply entrenched issue of predatory lending practices that has been allowed to fester for decades, enriching a handful of financial giants at the expense of millions and millions of working families. We need permanent structural reform that protects customers, period. Not fleeting gestures that evaporate faster than the politicians promise after an election. Imagine if your doctor told you, we'll cure your chronic illness for 1 year, then it's back to square one. You'd be frustrated, you'd be furious, and rightfully so. Our financial health deserves more than a temporary reprieve from corporate greed. We need a fundamental shift in how we regulate these financial institutions, ensuring they serve the public good, not just for their shareholders. We want to make sure that 1 year nonsense doesn't do anything, but we want to make sure that we have a little bit more political clout so that we can actually go and tackle the real issues head on.
Now, look, I think 10% is plenty to charge someone in interest. And in a bit, I'll get to the details on how much credit card companies on average are charging in interest rates. But before we get to that, let me give you some more details about the Trump proposal. So Trump didn't just recently propose capping credit card interest rates. He actually ran on it. It was part of his campaign. But like many of his other economic populist campaign promises, the policy just kind of fell by the wayside until all of a sudden he brought it up again. Now, it might have something to do with the fact that last week, Senator Bernie Sanders called Trump out for not fulfilling this one specific campaign promise. He wrote, Trump promised to cap credit card interest rates at 10% and stop Wall Street from getting away with murder. Instead, he deregulated big banks charging up to 30% interest on credit cards. The result? Last year, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon made $770 million. Unacceptable. Like, how much money do you need? Really, how much money do you need? How many lives are you willing to ruin just so you can make another $770 million? Jamie Dimon has more money than he could possibly spend before he croaks. Anyway, that same day, Trump actually wrote on Truth Social, we will no longer let the American public be ripped off by credit card companies that are charging interest rates of 20% to 30% and even more, which festered unimpeded during the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Affordability. Okay. And then he says, effective January 20th of this year, I am calling for a 1-year cap on credit card interest rates of 10%. Okay, number one, why 1 year? Like, is usury bad only for 1 year and then after that the badness expires? Like, what are we talking about? Like, what is this? But okay, whatever, I'll take it. It's something. It's at least something, especially as we're dealing with record consumer debt in this country. But you can't just pass this type of order through an executive order. You would need to pass a bill, legislation. You'd need Congress for that. And he knows that. He knows that. He's not stupid. So what does Congress think about this? Well, this has led to a debate. Is Trump setting an interest rate cap to please his base? Or is he doing this to cozy up to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? And I think you know where I stand on it. But if you don't, here's what I had to say about it on CNN last night.
He wants cookies from the people who have turned on him because he did not fulfill his campaign promises and has led to absolute chaos on our streets instead.
Yeah, but he's not interested in placating Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
No, he's interested in placating his own base, which is
he does
turned
need
on him
60
partly.
votes in the Senate for a lot of the financial bills that are coming down the pike. So I think the really out-of-the-box thing is to go and ally himself with the
get a
hard
handful
left,
of Republicans.
Right? Well, yeah, but I'm saying to go outside of the base and take the populist wing of the Democratic Party, which is also the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, and maybe make some concessions there. That could be what he's doing because of just the
he's not
pure,
doing that. Come on.
He's definitely aware of the.
I really need people to stop insulting my intelligence. Like, stop making things up. He does not give a damn about pleasing Democratic voters. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, as he's engaging in unpopular foreign entanglements that his base is furious about, yeah, he's trying to find a way to get back into their good graces by pretending like he wants to accomplish some economic populist policies. But again, you would need to do that through Congress. And I think we have a sense of what the Republicans in Congress think. Let's start off with House Speaker Mike Johnson.
I talked with him about it briefly yesterday, and he is the president is the ideas guy, and what he's doggedly determined to do and laser focused upon doing is the same thing that we are, and that is reducing the cost of living, bringing down prices for the American people, and he's looking at every idea under the sun to do that. You would need legislation to do something like that, and we'd have a lot of work to build consensus around it. But you got to be very careful if you go forward in that. In our zeal to bring down costs, you don't want to have negative secondary effects of that. So, for example, one of the things that the president probably had not thought through, and others at first glance, it sounds great. We should bring down, interest rates to 10%. It would help everybody, all borrowers. There's a lot of Americans who have a lot of credit card debt. But then, what some of the experts have said is, well, but the problem is if you do that, then the credit card companies, the negative secondary effect is that they would just stop lending money, and maybe they cap what people are able to borrow at a very low amount.
Oh, the classic "they'll stop lending" argument. It's the go-to scare tactic every single time someone proposes reining in corporate excess. It's like a broken record, constantly playing the same tired tune of corporate welfare disguised as economic concern. If we don't let them exploit you, they'll simply won't play. Come on, really? Give me a break. These credit card companies are raking in billions. Yes, I said it, billions with a B, in profit every single year. They're not some mom and pop shop barely making ends meet. They are financial behemoths with more money than Midas, Scrooge McDuck, and Jeff Bezos combined. They really expect us to believe that a 10% cap for a single year would suddenly dry up all lending? That's not just insulting, it's economically illiterate. What they're really saying is, if we can't make obscene, unconscionable profits off the backs of struggling Americans, then we simply won't bother. It's a threat, plain and simple, designed to protect their gilded cages and maintain the status quo of financial exploitation. It's time we call their bluff and remind them who the economy is supposed to serve. The people, not the corporate bottom line. This isn't about protecting access to credit. It's about protecting their ability to legally loan shark.
No, that's not the issue. First of all, the president is the ideas guy. You're congressional leadership. Back in the day when Congress actually was worth something and actually did something, that's where the ideas came from. They would do things like write bills and pass laws. They would do more than just fundraise off corporate interests and bloviate about nonsense culture war issues that they couldn't care less about. God, Mike Johnson is such a pathetic dweeb, especially with that just sick lie. Like, oh no, if we cap credit card interest rates at 10% for 1 year, it's gonna, they're not gonna loan out any money. No, you know what's gonna happen? They might take away some of the credit card rewards. Great, take my rewards. I don't care. Okay, stop loan sharking. Stop taking advantage of my fellow Americans. That's way more important to me than freaking airline miles. And then, in the Senate, you have Thune, useless, worthless, should be run out of town, should not be in leadership at all. He says, I think that would probably deprive an awful lot of people of access to credit cards around the country. Credit cards would probably become debit cards? What? That's not something I'm out there advocating for. Let's put it that way. He thinks you're stupid. That's what that communicated to me. Okay. But let's look at the data. What would actually happen? And remember, we're literally just talking about a 1-year cap on credit card interest rates. According to a report from Vanderbilt Policy Accelerator, the profit margins of most credit card companies could likely weather a 10% cap on credit card interest rates, but they would reduce rewards for borrowers by as much as $27 billion. Great. Sign me up. Take my rewards. I don't care. I know that there's probably some greedy ass Americans out there who are like, oh no, my airline miles. You're a bad person. Okay, your rewards are funded by people who are dealing with this insane interest rate environment. And let me give you the details on that real quick. So let's go to graphic 8. In the last 3 months of 2025, rates hit 21% on average per data from the Federal Reserve. That's up from around 15% before the pandemic. I can't believe it was 15%. How did the credit card companies survive? Oh, wow. The share of cardholders making only the minimum payment is at its highest since 2015 because Americans are broke. And that's according to data released by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in December, which has been gutted by the Trump administration. I'm surprised they're able to put out reports. And card users were assessed $160 billion in interest in 2024, and that's up from $105 billion in 2022. Let's look at this fun graph. So you can visualize what interest rates look like. So as you can see, interest rates are now up to 21%. They weren't always at 21%. I mean, in fact, if you look at what the rate was in the early aughts, it was much lower. Did those credit card companies go out of business? They didn't, did they? Were they still giving out rewards? They did, didn't they? These members of Congress think you're stupid. Don't let them insult your intelligence.
Exactly. They think we're stupid, and frankly, it's infuriating. The data is staring us right in the face. Credit card companies not only survive, but they thrive when interest rates were significantly lower. They didn't go out of business. The sky didn't fall. And guess what? They were still giving out rewards. This whole they'll stop lending narrative is a transparent, desperate attempt to protect their outrageous profit margins at our expense. It's a classic example of corporate propaganda, spoon-fed to us by politicians who are either too naive to see through it, or more likely they're too compromised by financial institutions and industry donated to care. They want us to believe that the entire financial system would collapse if they couldn't charge us 20 or 25 or even 30% interest. It's a lie, a bold-faced fabrication designed to keep the gravy train rolling for the ultra-wealthy. Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them insult your intelligence. The truth is, these companies can absolutely afford to offer fair interest rates and still make a healthy profit. The only thing that would suffer is their ability to hoard even more wealth than they already have. It's time we stood up and demanded that our elected officials prioritize people over profits and common sense over corporate greed. The data doesn't lie, but unfortunately, politicians do.
Now, there are some Republicans who are in favor of capping the interest rates. Unfortunately, not enough of them are. But I do want to give them a shout out. You have Josh Hawley, who says this is a fantastic idea. Can't wait to vote for this. Well, Josh, you're not going to get the opportunity. Sorry. Your Republican colleagues like that there are loan sharks taking advantage of Americans. Representative Anna Paulina Luna had also previously teamed up with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to cap interest rates at 10%. But unfortunately, that went nowhere. So it's sad when I can literally only name 2 Republicans in Congress who are in favor of capping interest rates at 10% for 1 year. But here we are.
There you have it, folks. The credit card industry and their political puppets are playing us for fools. But we're not buying it anymore. We need real solutions, not political theater. If you are fed up, as I am, with political prioritizing public profits over the financial well-being of everyday Americans, then smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. Let's keep calling out the BS and fighting for a fair economy for everyone. Until next time, stay vigilant.